All right. Well, thank you everyone again for joining us for today's webinar, our CRM Contender series, HubSpot Sales Hub versus Salesforce Sales Cloud. And before we get started, I do just want to run through a couple of housekeeping items. This will be a 60-minute presentation, but we'll have some Q&A within there as well. At any point during the presentation, if you have questions, just drop them into the question box. I'll monitor that as we go, and I'll interject with our presenters to ask your questions. So don't feel like you need to wait until the end of the presentation to ask questions. And then we are recording this session, and we'll be sending a copy of the webinar deck as well as the recording. You'll likely see that in your inbox tomorrow morning. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Megan, to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Brooks. I'm an account executive and also one of our CRM program managers here at BrainSell. Started my technology journey many years ago working with folks over at Gartner, and then I've been working with the BrainSell team for about 2 years now, supporting the adoption of CRM and other customer experience or CX tooling. I'll be representing HubSpot today through the Contender series.
Great, thank you, Megan. And Garrett.
Thank you, Megan. For those who don't know me, my name is Garrett Hogan. I'm the Vice President of CX here at BrainSell. I've been talking about CRM technologies for, close to 24 years now. It's great to be on the webinar. It's great to represent the Salesforce side on today's call.
Thank you, Garrett. So before we jump in, just at a high level covering what we will be reviewing today. So we're going to start off by setting the stage, looking at the state of the CRM market. There's a lot of options out there, spoiler alert. Key areas to consider when you're evaluating, whether it be if your tool that you currently have is still working for you or a new tool. And then we'll jump into really looking at HubSpot and Salesforce and doing a side-by-side comparison. And then again, we'll finish with a Q&A, but feel free to drop your questions in at any point. Before we do get started, I have a couple of poll questions just to help us understand where you all are at. So the first question is just, what are you currently using? Oops. Sorry. I accidentally closed it. So we'll move to the second question, which is, how would you describe the relationship with your current CRM? So are you happily married to it? You're in it for the long haul. Maybe you've had some rocky moments, but you're committed to working it out. You try to avoid interacting with it because it causes you headaches, or maybe you're exploring other options. And then finally, relationship. What relationship? So we've had 60% vote. I'll give folks another couple of seconds to get their votes in, and then I will share the results. So it looks like we have pretty even between having some headaches with your CRM, maybe you're exploring other options, and then 33% relationship. What relationship? And you, Megan and Garrett, probably have heard those things.
I love it.
Okay, so Garrett, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk about the state of CRM.
Yeah, let's talk about customer relationship management systems for a second. Just very high level overview. Obviously, you know, the biggest, fastest growing software market by far, $82 billion by 2025, according to Grand View Research. Really, the heart of every business and every sales operations should be the proper CRM that fits your company best. We'll dig into two of them today. If you haven't used a CRM before, it's nothing to be fearful of. For me, 24 years of talking about CRM technology and using CRM technology, I simply just can't live without it. Keep track of everything from my prospects to my customers, from my sales cycle to my strategic account strategy. Fun fact, 90% of companies already use CRM. If they're a little over the small business side, like 11 employees or more. But there's a lot of options out there as well. So if you've ever been through a CRM selection process before, it can be a little straining right? Over something like 600 different CRMs are in the marketplace. But interestingly enough, only 19% are rated 3 stars or more from their users, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about getting this crowded marketplace uncluttered for you, talking about the pros and cons of 2 specific CRMs, but how they really fit within the marketplace and how they may fit your business. There are so many options to turn to. It can definitely be a little overwhelming. I have a little bit of a delay here. Sorry about that. Why would we use a CRM, right? What's the benefit to it? We talked a little bit about it as far as tracking your prospects and your sales pipeline. Ideally, though, for the business, it's about a return on the investment, right? For every dollar that you're spending on a CRM implementation, you should be getting at least $8 or $9 back on that investment. The idea here is, and Megan's going to talk about it kind of as we move forward for a bit. It's all about those pre-planning steps, and what are our processes, and what are we trying to achieve with CRM? What are we trying to track? And how do we make it fast and efficient for our users? So we'll talk more about that, but ideally, it's about identifying what that return might look like. And then, of course, it's your customer experience as well, right? It's about lower churn of your existing customers. If I can get to the data faster, I can improve my customer experience. A lot of customers will tend to buy more from you if you've got a better customer experience, right? So we're talking not only about just improving your users' productivity, we're talking about a better customer experience. We're talking about a place to store all of your data for what a lot of CRMs call the 360-degree view of their customers. So we can analyze that, we can dig into it, and we can ideally just provide smarter selling, right? CRM in our business here at BrainSell, I think definitely increases our sales conversion rate. And I think statistically, and I think CloudWaves came out with this stat, sales conversion rates can increase by up to 300% simply by getting off Excel, getting off of just running with Outlook, and adopting the proper CRM. Megan, if you want to go to the next slide, perfect.
Yeah, and I think to your point earlier, Garrett, too, where this ecosystem of CRM tooling available to us is so vast, I think something that people who have gone through this process before or have done any type of research on CRM, a lot of them kind of look and feel the same. They may have similar features, but that doesn't necessarily mean that any CRM is going to be the right fit for you, your people, and unique processes. Each business is completely different. So by taking a deeper look into the variables that you may see here, you're going to be able to prioritize which features and functions are more valuable to you and evaluate tooling based on that. So that's that pre-work that Garrett was just talking about. And it's important to evaluate also with just other key stakeholders of the business. Sometimes we see folks operating in a silo, and that can lead to higher failure rates. So it's important to understand what's best for everyone who may be interacting with the system. In this case, we always recommend a platform approach, which we'll get to in a second here. If any other people are not involved, you may also experience a lack of user adoption. If it's not built for someone to be more productive and enable them to be more efficient, why would they use it? So this is something we've seen over and over again here at BrainSell. Some people just buy based on brand, based on price, or other factor outside of kind of the people, process, and data pillars. And those are the folks that we tend to see higher failure rates. So what we've done is actually constructed, and I'm going to plug BrainSell here, a proven exercise called a blueprint that may help our clients organize these various factors and provide recommendations and a plan based on the key learnings and priorities that we've pulled out of those stakeholder interviews, system reviews, process reviews, all that stuff. But to sum it up, there's a lot to think about, but know that you're not on an island. There are plenty of partners, BrainSell or other partners as well, to help support this effort, ensure you're saving time through the evaluation process, mitigate risk so you're not purchasing a CRM that doesn't work for you, you're spending all this money on tooling, implementing it. We want to make sure that you get it done right, thus saving you money in the long run and then enabling you for scale and growth in the future. So all of these different key areas or something you should be keeping in the back of your mind, either working directly with a partner or taking it internally through an evaluation.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Megan, too, it's great to, just circle back to what you were saying before. If you keep it fast and efficient for your users, we saw some of the poll numbers come in. Some of the users hate CRM that are on the call today, right? They don't want to use it. And that tells me a story that we need to relook at how we've deployed that CRM and make some changes to it. Because if it's fast and efficient, the users want to use it. If the users want to use it, then we can start collecting the data. And if we can start collecting the data, we can start understanding our business a bit more. That's as simple really as it is. And that's where, that's the starting point you should always look at when you're looking at your CRM system or choosing a CRM system.
Absolutely. We could open a whole other can of worms, which we'll probably get to towards the end about, should we love it or list it, essentially? Should we, if we're using one right now, should we look at maybe optimizing it? Maybe it's just not configured for us for growth and scale. Or is it time for us to move on to something a little bit more mature that can support us through those different growth plateaus and tiers? So to your point, exactly, it's all about taking that step back, taking a pause and understanding current state. That way you can be a little bit more purposeful with your future state.
Yeah.
Great. So with that being said, I want to get into kind of the thick of it all. So we'd love to get right into comparing the two most well-known, I would say, in the marketplace, HubSpot Sales Hub and Salesforce Sales Cloud. So to kind of start off, we wanted to talk about the platforms themselves, because CRM is just a small part of what these tools can actually offer. So what I'll talk about here is the HubSpot side, and then I'll toss it over to Garrett to talk about kind of the lore, if you will, of Salesforce and how it came to be. So the lore, if you will, behind HubSpot and Salesforce platforms is very different and can affect user experience. If you've actually had the opportunity of working with both of them, you'll understand that the processes are a little different. HubSpot started with their very well-known marketing tool, Marketing Hub. That was their first iteration of the tool. And through customer feedback, market research, and many, many years of development, HubSpot has organically grown into the platform that we see today, supporting sales, marketing, customer support through Service Hub, content management through CMS Hub, and then Operations Hub, which at a blanket is just a way for you to organize data, have better integrations, workflows, all this custom stuff that may not come out of the box with the standard kind of core 4 tooling as well. But we won't get too far into that. We want to focus on CRM, but we do always recommend a platform approach. The ecosystem is just going to play nicer together than it would if you had a bunch of different integrations together. But Garrett, do you want to talk a little bit about Salesforce's platform as well?
Yeah, happy to. And again, you're going to see some similarities on the right side of the screen, right? You're going to see that, of course, Salesforce started as a customer relationship management system, right? It started as under the name Salesforce.com, but has grown through acquisition, which is something that many vendors take, to now include proper marketing automation under its Marketing Cloud initiative, proper ticketing and case management under Service Cloud, e-commerce capabilities under the Commerce Cloud, and then Data Cloud, very similar to Operations Hub. And we won't touch on these two tools too much today. We're going to stay more on the Sales Hub and the Sales Cloud side, but think of Operations and Data Cloud as bringing all of this data together, mashing it, getting great analytics, AI capabilities available, tons of things to really understand your business from front end to back end. So, but to Megan's point, we'll stick more to the sales CRM aspects of these platforms to today. I think probably the biggest takeaway in reviewing these two tools specifically is they're basically both in that CRM enterprise class category. You're gonna go back to that G2 Crowd slide and you're gonna see that there are many light CRMs in the marketplace. They're good for customers. It's not meant to beat them up, but your requirements may outweigh choosing that CRM. Whereas with the more enterprise cloud platforms, your complexity, you could have very high complexity in your processes and your deal cycles, and these tools will fit that very nicely. Again, I think the really nice thing about looking at enterprise class CRMs first is that you're almost assured that 4 or 5 years later, you won't be outgrowing your CRM platform. These two tools are both meant for growth and scale and process change as your business continues to evolve.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of flows really nicely into that sentiment that you just shared, Garrett, into kind of the features overview, because both of these platforms, it's not like you're purchasing the highest tier possible. They do have different tiers that offer different types of features and functionalities at various price points to meet you where you're at, and then easily grow and scale with you. So I can speak to HubSpot in terms of the high level features. Of course, we're going to go deeper into the kind of more big ticket items that lead to higher return on investment. But in terms of what you can expect from HubSpot, at least, is the deployment is cloud. There is no private cloud, there is no on-premise option. So one of the limitations with HubSpot is you cannot hold any PHI, PII, HIPAA compliant financial information, social security numbers, anything that might be sensitive data. And of course, it depends on the country that you're in as well. But in terms of the United States, that's kind of the baseline here. It's cloud hosted, so if you do have that type of information, it may not be a best fit for you, but we'll get into best fit, wrong fit towards the end here. Minimum licenses is 2 paid users, but you can have a free account and you can have unlimited free users inside of HubSpot, which is really exciting. I don't think most CRMs do that. You either need some sort of light license or a paid license, a full paid license in order to access the tool. Of course, the free users are going to have some limitations in terms of usability, but it's still nice to be able to gain access to it and try it on your own or just have a viewer license. We'll talk about email integration shortly thereafter in a couple of slides, but very seamless integration with Gmail and Outlook. So we'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward. Reporting, we'll also get into this a little bit more in the analytics piece of it all, but HubSpot does have very robust reporting, whether it's out of the box reports, meaning that they already live inside of CRM, or more custom reports that we can help you build, a partnership can help you build. The UX piece of it, it's great for the consistent UI across all the different hubs. You'll notice that they all look the same. So when you do grow and start to adopt the different hubs to achieve that platform approach, it's all going to look the same. So the time to value is going to be shorter because you already kind of know how it works. And then scalability is huge. We just talked about that. You can start off on the starter professional version, and then as you have more complex requirements and more complex processes, maybe a larger team, then it makes sense for you to upgrade, which is very seamless since it is hosted in the cloud. That upgrade is pretty much painless altogether. Garrett.
Yeah, and then on this, of course, on the Salesforce side, if you're not familiar with it, it does have some additional hosting options called private cloud. And so if you do or are concerned about security, perhaps you're, ideally you don't want to be tracking things like social security numbers in your CRM system. You want to use more of a HMR system for that or something like that, or yes, HMR system for that or something like that. But, should you be concerned about sensitivity to your data, you always have the private cloud option with Salesforce. They do not have the on-premise edition, but private cloud gives you some really good security. Just like HubSpot, you could go on Salesforce right now and start a trial and change it to a paid subscription. So you could be a single user. If you do have one of those unique situations where you would have one user in the system and you have high complexity, well, you're going to want to talk to a company like BrainSell or Salesforce directly about what flavor of Salesforce you might want to use and whether or not that one user option is going to be available. So it gets a little complicated there. But the Gmail and the Outlook integration, again, I'm going to hone in a bit on that later on in the call. So is Megan on the HubSpot side, specifically with the artificial intelligence capabilities that they're introducing within your inbox. But whether or not you're a mixed shop or a single Outlook Office 365 shop, you're going to have those types of plugins to work with your CRM data directly within Outlook. That's actually a very important point for anybody who's on the call who hasn't introduced a CRM system to their sales team in the past. I always look at what can the email integration do, because your sales team's probably living inside of Outlook or living inside of Gmail every day. And so by introducing a CRM with robust capabilities that are embedded inside of your inbox, that's just going to help your user adoption. It's going to be a great crutch to get the team started utilizing and tracking inside of the CRM. The reporting is fantastic in Salesforce. The acquisition of Tableau inside of their portfolio has been nothing but a business intelligence power add. And again, revenue intelligence capabilities. This is Salesforce is an open architecture system to a degree. It's going to give you access to all of your data to mash it up and create very sophisticated reports and dashboards to give you real-time information into your data. And again, that's only going to get better with what everyone's, the big buzzword out there today, which is artificial intelligence and how these tools are adopting that. One of the downsides, you might say, to the complexities in which you can build out your Salesforce platform is going to be the system management, right? It's going to have a lot of capabilities in the back end. And so you really want to look to a system admin. You really want to look to a very, very qualified power user to manage the back end of that system. We'll talk a little bit more about what that might mean if you're interested offline. But Salesforce has single user shops worldwide. It has customers with 50,000, 80,000 users in the system. So definitely a product that you can scale and grow with over time by investing into that stack. So.
Great.
And any questions that come up so far, Sarah?
Not yet, but this is a great reminder for folks. If you have questions as we're going through the functionality and the comparisons, please go ahead and drop them in the question box and I'll ask them to Megan and Garrett.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, no, I think what's also really important to remember too is you probably have a lot more tools in your toolbox there than just a CRM, right? We have document management, we have e-signature tools, you probably have accounting tools like a QuickBooks Online. There's so many things that you may be leveraging outside of just the sales and marketing customer experience tooling if we want to bucket into one. So it's important to start thinking about integrations because we want certain processes to be seamless. So for example, you sold something and now you want to get it sent to accounting. There is a native integration, for example. We'll talk about what an ecosystem and native means, but a native integration with HubSpot and QuickBooks where we can actually streamline that process rather than having that process be pulled out of the CRM and then put through email or going into direct to QuickBooks. So the HubSpot ecosystem is comprised with over 1,100 applications at this point. And when we say ecosystem or native, we're speaking to the integrations that are already pre-built. HubSpot certifies them if they're in the ecosystem, and they're pretty much ready to use right away. There may be some light configuration, but they're pretty much ready to do plug and play. There's no coding of it needed. So these applications, like I mentioned, can include e-signature, DocuSign, PandaDoc, other marketing tools. So you're just using the CRM and you want a light marketing automation tool like MailChimp, that also is a native integration. I just mentioned QuickBooks. Another one is if you're using Salesforce's CRM and HubSpot Marketing Hub, because they're two very powerful tools, there's a native integration there, even though they are competitors. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, I imagine, towards the end of how these actually can complement each other as well as competitors. The whole purpose here is to have that seamless handoff in transitions. And HubSpot's API is also very flexible and easy to use. And if you pair that kind of open API approach with the Operations Hub plugin, then you can practically connect HubSpot to anything with an open API or a database, which makes this tool very powerful to have a holistic view of your prospects, customers across sales, marketing, service, accounting, however which way you're interacting with them, the more data, the better. So this ecosystem and the open API allows you to have that type of insight with your customers very, very easily.
Yeah, and probably two of the biggest ecosystems out there, again, going back to that very crazy map of CRM technologies in the marketplace, Salesforce it wins the day when it comes to their App Exchange. They have the most plugins in the market. HubSpot's chasing and gaining quickly. I'll be honest on that. Dynamics is in there as well, but by far some of the biggest App Exchange. So what does that mean to you? Well, both products, both vendors, HubSpot and Salesforce, are both going to vet the plugins before they're released. So you know that they've been tested by the vendors, and the vendors have given the thumbs up, and they'll release it out in Salesforce's case, the App Exchange.
Yeah. And it's really cool. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Garrett.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's really nice because they also have ratings. So a lot of these integrations are built by partners like BrainSell, for example, or other partners out there as well. So what they've done is you can see pretty clearly in the App Exchange is you have like Amazon ratings of the stars. So it works, but how well does it work? So before you adopt a CRM, that's something that we can help you with, or do your own research and actually look inside of the App Exchange or Marketplace to see, okay, I have all these different toolings. How can they connect or potentially connect to this? Because we want to make sure that the systems architecture can also work together with your current investments. And if not, find out what that way forward may look like with either this one of these tools or another tool. So it's really interesting that folks are able to rate those integrations to see how well they work together.
Yeah, and it all goes back to the original step, right? What are our processes? Like, what are we trying to achieve by either transitioning to a new CRM because we've outgrown the old one, or introducing a CRM to our business? And once those processes are mapped out, you may find something like QuickBooks integration. And you may think, well, how does that work with Salesforce? And you may find that the Salesforce App Exchange has, because it does, 4, 5, 6 different QuickBooks integration plugins. Well, by understanding our processes first and what we're trying to achieve by connecting these two tools, we can now go to the App Exchange and look, and we can identify that one of those plugins is best fit for us and the way it flows the data, reports on the data, so on and so forth. But it's also good to note that, as the CRM space has evolved, right? It started in the mid 90s. I got involved in it around 2000. You used to get a little bit boxed in. It didn't matter which plugin, which CRM you used. You get a little boxed in and get limited on what options you had to connect different tool sets. And that's changed dramatically over the last 5-6 years. So not only do you have a robust ecosystem with add-ons available for all these different types of integrations, you can build your own within the platforms. You can use pieces of what they call middleware also to achieve integration points. It can get very exciting. And that actually keeps you from being limited in the technology stack in which you're building out your business. I love HubSpot marketing for marketing automation, but I need a robust Salesforce CRM, and I think Salesforce fits that picture better. There is no concern these days connecting those two tools and leaving the ecosystem of HubSpot or Salesforce and just connecting the two tools, if that makes sense. So it can get very exciting. Again, it all starts with that pre-planning step.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, do you want to kick us off here, Garrett, and talk about, I know you're excited to talk about the email integrations here. Let you take the lead.
We mentioned it before. You're going to find Salesforce has a very robust email integration. Of course, whether that means with maybe you're still using Exchange on-premise through Microsoft, maybe you're using Office 365, maybe you're using Gmail. What we like to convey is get that CRM embedded inside of your inbox, so that when I look at an email, I can see all the information that I need about that contact back in my CRM. What we want to avoid is introducing a CRM and then your users using 5 or 6 browser windows throughout the day and flipping back and forth. So email integration is incredibly important. The idea that I could be highlighting an email from a customer and I could see my entire history with that customer, potentially even with some of my accounting data as well, based on the integration points you've made with other systems in your business, well, then we're really being fast, we're really being efficient, and we're really providing the insights that the salesman or any member needs to get about their day and just get their work done without them having to leave the comfort zone of their inbox, which they may be very well used to. I'm going to circle back on the AI importance of what Salesforce is doing with their email integration in a little bit, but think of it this way. Even after 24 years, the writer's block that I get every day when trying to respond to a customer, well, it get a little unnerving on my side. And so generative AI and having your CRM introduce what you might want to respond with, information about the account and leveraging all that, and it just creating the emails for you. That's where these two tools are going. And it's going to get nothing more but exciting and exciting as we get into the next 12, 16 months. Though both of these tools have introduced these concepts already. So, Megan?
Yeah, no, thanks, Garrett. It's a great overview and little teaser for what we're going to be talking about in a couple of slides with AI and how these tools are leveraging the cool things that ChatGPT is doing and beyond that as well. But to this slide and this point, I mean, email integration is by far the biggest request that we see, or the biggest requirement that we see, because of Garrett's point there. People are living in their inboxes, and I'm guilty of that too. I've got 3 screens in my mothership here, and Outlook is always on the biggest one on my left. So I'm right there with you. But thankfully, both of these tools integrate seamlessly with Outlook and Gmail, just like Garrett had said, and it does act as that mini CRM. So I know with HubSpot's plugin specifically, you can track when folks are opening your emails. You'll get a notification, as well as being housed in the CRM. You have that information, and within this little sidebar that you see here, I'm pointing at mine because I have my demo up there because I still use the HubSpot plugin even with our demo instance because I like it so much. What's that?
I still point at my screen too.
Oh yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I have it open here, which it is. Like, I still use it, so you can see, like Garrett had said, the related things. You can even pull in your email templates that you've created inside the CRM to help with that writer's block or just speed things along, as well as snippets and other things. You're able to automatically create an opportunity or create a contact if someone reaches out to you. You can immediately send that to CRM. Where you're not flipping between those multiple tabs or multiple screens in order to actually be productive and efficient with your job. So it helps increase productivity and the customer experience as well, because you're going to be able to know exactly who this person is as soon as they send you an email, in case you forgot. You're working with a lot of people, whatever that use case might be. It just helps you be a little bit more organized, especially the world that we live in today. People don't love to be on phone calls, so email is typically the preferred method of communication these days.
Great. Before we move on, we did have a question come in. We were talking about App Exchange and the marketplace and different integrations, and the question is, does HubSpot and Salesforce, do they integrate with Epicor Eclipse ERP?
Megan, feel free to go first. I can answer.
I was going to say, so I have actually had experience with this particular integration, and Epicor does not have a native integration with HubSpot. However, BrainSell ourselves, we've built an integration with Epicor using some of our own tooling, and it's a pretty successful integration, but it's not native. It doesn't live in the app marketplace as I know of today. So it's possible, but it's just not native.
Yeah, which opens the door for HubSpot still as a solution if integration is required.
Right.
Salesforce is going to have that option. There's a couple options that come to mind. So again, I would say on the Epicor and Salesforce integration side, whether it be MuleSoft or SalesEye or our Interloop product, you do have several different options. Let's go back to your processes and what type of integration are we looking to do. Yep. Happy to have a conversation offline and point you in the right direction as far as the best fit for that middleware.
And just to kind of touch on that just a little bit further to get you thinking about what to start thinking about when we do have that conversation offline is, what are some things that you need from Epicor to live in HubSpot and vice versa? Is it a unidirectional sync, or do we want it continuously talking to each other? Or do we just need a centralized place for that data to be, which would be a completely different solution? So there's a lot of different things that you may be thinking about. It's not just as easy as kind of connecting the two APIs together and then having them speak to each other. I'm sure there's some data that you don't need in both places. So those are some of the requirements that we'll be talking about through those conversations.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, on to mobile.
Yeah, happy to start on the right if you like, Megan. How critical is mobile? It's incredibly critical. As you would imagine, both HubSpot and Salesforce include mobile as part of your subscription, whether it's an Android phone or an iPhone. Put it on your tablet as well, without penalty. Have it accessible so you can work the way that you need to work. If driving directions are critical to you, if mapping out a driving schedule is critical to you, there are options on the Salesforce side that we can dive into. candidly, there's 4 options on the Salesforce side that you can dive into and kind of figure out what's going to be best fit for you. But a lot of our customers, because of the way work has changed over the last several years, have focused more on their CRM customization and design from the mobile interface rather than the browser. They started with the mobile interface, and then that kind of reflects what you see now on the browser, whereas for years and years and years, it was about displaying your CRM data properly on the browser, and then the mobile view was more of an after fact. So we're hearing from customers a little change in how they want to do it. Salesforce's mobile capabilities is completely customizable. So if you want to completely change the package, you have the ability to do that to whatever fits your use case.
Yeah, thanks, Garrett. And I would argue that HubSpot's mobile app is probably the most sophisticated that I've seen. They've done a lot of work into it because since we've shifted outside of the work from home pandemic life into now people being able or more comfortable traveling. There are some folks that are purely field sales reps. For example, I worked with a customer that did commercial cleaning. So for them to, throughout their sales cycle, they need to go to the building that they'd be cleaning, like a say Mercedes dealership, for example, and they'd have to scope out the project, take pictures, all of these things, all of which they can't do, of course, from their laptop. So what HubSpot's mobile app enabled them to do is be able to attach those photos and put in the information in the fields, HubSpot calls them properties, like the square footage of the building, things of that nature. Everything can be held inside of that mobile app. There's some other features like talk to text. So if you're taking notes and you're in the car and you don't want to type on the little screen, you can actually speak it and it connects it to the record. There are other things like a HubSpot keyboard that they have created, which allows you to actually put in sales assets and send sales assets from the HubSpot keyboard rather than clicking, dragging, moving things around with your fingers on your tablet or phone. So they've really developed something that helps field sales reps and folks in manufacturing and other industries be more successful on the road with their tooling, which also increases user adoption, organization. You'll have less silos. So just being able to have that on the go is going to be super, super important for those of us who aren't glued to our desks all the time.
Yeah. And Megan just touched on the talk to text feature in HubSpot. Salesforce has it as well. That starts to lead your conversation into, how do we want to automate certain aspects of this system, make it easy for the user so they're not living in the system, constantly data entry, constantly living and breathing in there. The system's doing a lot of automation and taking some of those responsibilities away from the user. Now, Salesforce is going to do that really well. It's got guided selling capabilities. That introduces the concept of consistency in whichever records you might be looking at. So if you have an opportunity, series of steps, for example, that you want the users to take, maybe we need to qualify the opportunity, then we have to identify the products and services, then we have to go through a credit check, and that credit check is going to be done by a different department, and then they approve it, and then the salesman sends out paperwork. All those steps can start to get automated, and a guided selling process, which is visual in Salesforce, can kind of guide the user through that entire process. Complex sales cycles, you miss things drop, and then we have fires to put out. Guided selling kind of resolves all that. And guided selling can change based on the different types of opportunities. So it can get very interesting to see how it branches out depending on the style of opportunity that you're running and all the tasks that you need to complete. So now all of a sudden we're tracking the 360-degree view of our customer, but salespeople are checking with the credit department, and the credit department's notifying them that the credit check's been done, and billing's been told to set up the account and generate the purchase order. All these types of things can be automated now, saving the user's time, frustration, and improving the customer experience, which we all want to see. Again, this leads back to having those salesmen want to use a system like this, because it's saving them time, it's saving them frustration, it's improving the customer experience, so their customers are now buying more products and services from them. We're really humming along as a business right now with proper flows.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about automation and guided selling. We could talk about this for an entire webinar. That's a whole other conversation about CRM automation and the different use cases. I know folks like Kyle Jepson, I believe his name is, on LinkedIn. He does a lot of good stuff of creative ways to automate certain processes, whether they're internal processes like Garrett's speaking of, or external processes towards increasing customer experience. There's so many fun ways that you can save time and increase your return on your investment with the tooling. That could be through email sequences. Maybe you have a nurture sequence that you'd like to put your prospects through if they've ghosted you or they said maybe next year or something like that, but you still want to stay top of mind. Send email sequences. That way you don't have to be on it, spending time, say, how long was the last time you reached out to these people? They'll be in a sequence where they can actually be spoken to via whatever you've set up there with your templates, emails, things of that nature. And then there's also workflows, and these workflows could be, again, external facing to the customer, or internal facing, where say you have a pipeline automation workflow set up, where once the opportunity is closed won, you want to send the customer a thank you note. Thank you for working with us. We're processing your bill. Instead of you manually doing that, it triggers something inside of the tool to send it out. These are very, very easy and high level examples of what it can be done, but there's so many creative ways. And then in terms of guided selling, HubSpot has created a playbook feature that can be either pulled from a template or created on your own. A lot of times it's a sales and marketing effort together, but what it does is it allows organizations to have really tight sales cycles to ensure the salespeople are ultimately gathering the information needed to qualify and move customers along the sales cycle properly. So getting all the information that you need. It's also a great coaching tool. When you have new people, they can go by these playbooks and say, oh, this is the type of information I should be searching for when I'm speaking to my customers or prospects. And some folks have even created workflows using dynamic properties. So in order to move the sales cycle along the way, they need to have certain properties filled out to qualify them to move to the next step. And it just helps keep folks accountable, helps keep sales cycles nice and tight, and eventually through practice, it'll actually speed up sales cycles because you're gathering that pertinent information faster by leveraging the different types of workflows, guided selling, and kind of those gates along the way. So there's so many different things that we could do down the line with HubSpot. I'm sure Salesforce has something very similar as well.
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse on this, but I mentioned processes because it's so important. You get the process maps down, and I know I've mentioned that before, but after those process maps are down and you understand this is the flow, this is a day in the life, this is how our users are going to be capturing information, then you apply guided selling. And you look at guided selling and you say, can I apply guided selling to our processes? And then I look at our processes and I say, what can we automate to eliminate inefficiencies in our business? Once that's layered on, your final step, Sarah, is analytics.
Oh, Garrett's just the king of transition. Yeah, I think the golden rule here for analytics and reporting in CRM is if it's in CRM, it can be reported on. And I would imagine that's true for both HubSpot and Salesforce. So that includes, notes, meetings, emails, LinkedIn touches, if you have that integration set up, which is native, calls, emails, pipeline metrics, how long deals are sitting in certain stages, revenue, other KPIs that we would uncover in the pause or like the pre-work before we actually do implementation. We'll want to outline what those metrics are that you're tracking, and then we can build reports, whether it's out of the box or customized reports, and certain dashboards based on what's important to you, executive dashboards versus what's important to the salesperson's day-to-day, tracking against my number. Who do I have to follow up with today? What are my tasks? What should I be prioritizing? All of these analytics, as long as it lives in CRM, we can take that and make it actionable. And I know we only have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure we get to the AI stuff. So Garrett, feel free to chime in.
I'll try to be brief because another big conversation, probably another webinar. And look, at the end of the day, every CRM should have a pipeline funnel. If it doesn't, it shouldn't even be considered. What you have to look at now, though, is that next level of reporting that Salesforce and candidly HubSpot are doing quite well, and that's trending over time. So not only are we saying that Bill has a pipeline and is worth $500,000, but we're starting to analyze and saying, you know, the close rate of these products and services used to take 45 days, and now they're taking 65 days. What's changed? That's called trending, and it's a concept that we can really dig into on a future call to understand that part of your business, understand a little bit more about why those trends are occurring. Really helps you tighten up and steer your ship in different directions. Most CRMs are not going to have that capability. So start thinking about, well, what about data over time? A great example is for your sales team, and everyone has an expected close date for their pipeline. That's great, but you know, if you're not going to hit that expected close date, a salesman tends to say, move the expected close date out a month, right? Well, we want to be able to capture that. We don't want to penalize the sales rep for moving the expected close date of a deal. We want to understand why, right? We want to understand those types of trends. Happy to dig deeper into that if anybody's interested in that type of thinking when it comes to analytics. They both do it really well. So, and then of course, capabilities. Yeah, and I'll dive right in because I'm all about this kind of stuff, of course. Really, what we're talking about is generative AI. What we're really talking about is feeding the user information for them to get things out the door faster, increase their communication with their customers. Salesforce is introducing Einstein GPT, or has introduced Einstein GPT. What that's doing at a very high level today is looking at the account, the contact of which we're perhaps emailing, right? And auto-generating an email for the sales rep to quickly review and say, yeah, that was the messaging I wanted to convey, and then get it out there. On the case side, for example, a product and service issue using Salesforce, not only the ability to auto-generate the response to a ticket, to again improve my reactions to ticket issues, improve the customer experience, but also have the system identify they're trying to buy a jacket, and this hat actually comes with the jacket, and they're not buying that hat, and introducing the idea of buying that hat with the customer while I have that ticket open. Those are things that may take several minutes for a customer service rep to identify and dig into within the system. A couple of years ago, now the systems can actually tell you to suggest those types of things. It's called generative AI. Again, another whole webinar we'll be getting into as we get into the fall, but I think Salesforce is really ahead of the curve on AI. And if you're really bullish about AI as part of your future tech stack, you're going to want to take a look at some of those AI capabilities that Salesforce has released over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I would agree that these larger software companies are really taking the bull by the horns and implementing it as much as possible. I see a lot with HubSpot's AI. There's content that you can ask. Either the CRM will come up with some generative suggestions, or if those of you who are keeping up with AI trends, HubSpot has recently released ChatSpot, which is kind of the love child between HubSpot and ChatGPT, where HubSpot's, I believe he's one of the co-founders, Dharmesh, actually created himself, I'm sure with the help of some of the other folks over at HubSpot. But if you already have a HubSpot account, even if you don't, I believe you have access to this. It is free, whether or not you have an account or not. So some of the things that you're able to do, they have a ton of templates that they've already created. So creating a contact, creating a prospect or a lead, creating a company, an opportunity, whatever that might look like. You can also create email templates. They will actually create a blog for you, and then you can click a button and it pulls it into your blog templates for you. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with ChatSpot, which is powered by ChatGPT, but they are very, very upfront with their limitations at this time. So language, it performs best with English. It doesn't really work that well with other languages right now. It's still learning. It may not deliver the results for all prompts, and it may not access all the data in your CRM. And it doesn't remember or reference previous messages in a thread similar to ChatGPT. It doesn't do that yet. It's very much, this is the request that I have. But what it does do really nice is provide those templates. The data is very secure inside of it. They won't ever sell it to a third party. And it delivers a lot of those business insights that you may be looking for. So there's just so much that we can do, and I'm actually preparing to do a demonstration for one of our customers around some of the things that it can help with as it pertains to marketing, but there's a lot it can do for CRM as well.
And back to the reporting side too, as well, right? These are two vendors who have a lot of money invested in research and development. And a lot of CRMs in the marketplace, they simply just cannot invest the amount that these two tools are going to be investing in things like intelligent prediction capabilities, intelligent flow capabilities, automated analysis. They're just getting started on this AI, in this AI space, and we're going to see some really exciting things over the next 12, 24 months under the conversation of generative AI.
Yeah.
Okay, pricing. Complicated question to try to answer. And Megan and I and Sarah, we thought through this quite a bit coming into this presentation, right? At best, Megan can present the HubSpot numbers. You'll notice that we did include Sales Cloud Starter on the Salesforce side. It still has its niche in the world, but it's pretty limited and it's priced accordingly for that. What you might be thinking about when it comes to budget from a simple CRM technology investment standpoint outside of services is looking at the Sales Cloud Professional or enterprise models for your small and medium-sized business. But Sales Cloud Unlimited does introduce a whole host of different capabilities. Again, this is a great slide to be able to reference when you start thinking about what would my budget look like and what would the return on investment look like as well. From the Salesforce side, to be honest, I would start looking at professional and enterprise and stay right there for that conversation. And if your interest increases in Salesforce, you continue to hone in, maybe touch on unlimited just to peek it out, but stay within that professional and enterprise sales, especially if you're introducing a new CRM, because you wouldn't introduce all the concepts of the CRM to your users all at once anyway. So.
Right. Yeah, and that's where the scalability comes in too, because each of these paid tiers with HubSpot does have a limited amount of users that you can have as well. So starters 2, pro is 5, and enterprise is 10 users minimum. So that's the cost per user, but there are minimums involved here, and I imagine probably the same with Salesforce at some point. But to Garrett's point is, depending on your requirements, most small to medium-sized businesses are usually starting at pro because they likely have 3 to 5 salespeople, and then they just naturally grow into enterprise. I will say when we get into right fit, wrong fit, Salesforce is great for very large enterprises. HubSpot's getting there. For example, Uber just switched over to HubSpot, but either way, it's best for their bread and butter is small to medium-sized businesses, or medium to large, staying more towards the medium side. And one of the key factors to consider is not just the license cost, but the overall cost of ownership. So I can speak to HubSpot a little bit, but the base license, if we want to start talking a little bit more about how much it takes to actually get this up and running, how long it's going to take, what it takes to maintain the system, you'll find that HubSpot's total cost of ownership is relatively lower on average. So in terms of numbers of seats, the onboarding cost, you either onboard direct with HubSpot, which is always included, they require an onboarding, or if you work directly with a partner, they waive that fee and you work with the partner for onboarding. It does include any type of support, 24/7 support, either by chat, phone, or email. And migrations, of course, you'll want to work with a partner to migrate over. There are certain things that HubSpot can take on, but those are kind of the little details that we can speak to on a one-to-one basis. Configuration and customization, that's either going to be done through onboarding or through a partner where we can help you do that more of like a white glove service. And all the rest of these, of course, is all about, do you want a partner to support you? It does take a little bit of effort and time to get some of these integrations. If you have some sort of developer support, that would either be done direct to a partner or with HubSpot. And then time to value with that bottom part right there, we typically see overall MVP, if you will, minimum viable product, within 90 days of Sales Hub Enterprise, which is the largest tier. Again, I want to make sure we have enough time to get to the good stuff. So Garrett, if you want to talk a little bit about the TCO.
Yeah. What I would say on the Salesforce side, and you'll kind of see it on the slide here, to Megan's point, CRM projects vary greatly. Work with a partner to understand the types of sprints and how you want to deploy a CRM. Use phases and sprints and a methodology to deploy it to truly understand what your costs are over time. They can range from a $6,000 project to a $1 million project easily, right? I think the biggest takeaway when you're comparing HubSpot to Salesforce is because Salesforce does have complex capabilities, the ability to do very complex things within its platform, its back end is going to take a little bit more time to configure. And so when you think about your use case, if you're evenly matched, HubSpot, Salesforce are both a good fit. Just expect that Salesforce onboarding is probably going to take a little bit more time due to the nature in which you need to configure the system to fit your specific needs. And you'll kind of see that under the customization and configuration section, the developer supports section. It's just the nature of what we call the UX, right? How you work with the system to configure it to fit your needs. There are ways to save on costs with Salesforce. They do charge for partial and full sandboxes, and you can save a significant amount by simply, if you need a sandbox, to have a partial rather than a full one. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit bigger of a lift to get your Salesforce customized in a very general sense. Again, happy to take more conversations with this offline to understand what your use case might look like. Happy to do it. So, okay.
Yeah, and that kind of drives into the right fit, wrong fit, right? If budget's a big concern, taking into consideration that Salesforce 9 times out of 10, you need to hire a full-time admin, whether that admin is also your VP of sales or your RevOps leader, whatever that might look like, you do need some sort of certified administrator to manage your Salesforce. Well, with HubSpot, you don't, but that also makes sense for the complexity of it. HubSpot's less complex. Their backend is practically no to low code, depending on the amount of complexity you'd like to introduce to the tool, which makes it, again, really good fit for that small to medium to large, more on the medium side businesses. So right fit is usually about 2,000 employees total. Great tool if you're moving off of a homegrown system or a down market point solution such as Pipedrive, coppermonday.com, those that are a little bit more lighter on the CRM side when you're starting to move into a more mature product. HubSpot's great because it is so easy to use. The user adoption rates are pretty high with HubSpot. And moderate complexity, it does support some complexity with sales processes, supports a lot of the functionalities needed for day-to-day, just out of the box at no extra cost. And typically it's great when you just adopt the whole platform. You can grow into the whole platform, but it's really nice if you have everything there across the sales, service, and marketing side. Where it's not a good fit, I mentioned this a couple times, no sensitive data can live inside of HubSpot. We can do integrations with different toolings to pull in some information, but we have to be super careful about what that information we're pulling in looks like. And then anything super complex, insurance, healthcare, finance, and then if you need anything on premise, it just doesn't have that option, so it won't be a good fit for you.
And Salesforce is a bit of a household name, so you know where it can go, right? There are there are global companies using the Salesforce application. If you're a very small team, you might just simply find that it's overkill, and that getting it designed and lifted and its feature capabilities are too rich for what you're looking for, in which case you might want to look at Salesforce as just being cost prohibitive, not a fit, because it's overkill for your use case. If you're looking for something on premise, there are still CRMs that do that, but Salesforce does not, so you want to be careful of that. But again, I have to hone back to looking at our processes on paper and understanding that against a lot of feature set in both products, right? And I'll leave it at that for today. So I know we're short on time.
There's so much we could talk about between these two products.
And we have had questions come in, so I apologize because we have run out of time, but we will follow up with all of you that that submitted questions and make sure that we answer them. Again, apologies for running out of time and being able to answer them live. And then for everyone attended, we are offering a CRM optimization audit. So reviewing your current tech stack and your processes, as Garrett and Megan have been talking about, and identifying if there are opportunities to leverage automation and data, and then talking about actionable next steps. So if you're interested in taking advantage of that, we'll include a link in the follow-up email, and we'll also be reaching out to you to help you schedule. So thank you, Garrett and Megan, for a lot of information today, and thank you all for joining us. And I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Sarah.
Bye.
Guys.